Hi everybody, this is Dan Stolberg. Welcome to this week's KFIR Middle East Update. It's the week of August 18th, and let's jump right into the headlines. Again, these headlines come to you from Israel, not your normal 6 o'clock news. Keep that in mind as I'm reading them. John Kerry, U.S. Secretary of State, his quote is that if we walk away from the Iran deal, the loss of confidence in the U.S. leadership could threaten the dollar's position as world's reserve currency. Once again, hit them in the pocketbook if you want a decision, right? Palestinian Authority Mahmoud Abbas, surprise, surprise, will be visiting Tehran in the near future in order to strengthen bilateral ties. Everybody else is getting financial help from Iran regarding weapons. Why not Fatah? Khamenei, by the way, the Ayatollah, has basically said, regardless of what America does, I'm not sure I'm in favor of this deal. It's probably the only thing that Israel and Iran are in agreement on, is questioning this nuclear deal. Again, Netanyahu is warning that Iran has already, since the agreement, the tentative agreement to this deal, has already dealt money to a variety of terrorist groups on the border. We've got hot spots that we'll talk about here in a second, both in the Golan as well as in Gaza. That's going to be our headlines. Again, let me encourage you to make sure that you grab the PDF and the PowerPoint that comes along with this. If you need to access this report, again, very easy, Dan at hgkfir.com. Just say sign me up and we'll make sure that you get the link for the YouTube as well as the PDF that goes along with it. Okay, now this issue of snapbacks. What if Iran is found cheating? And it's gone kind of back and forth. This just out this week. Violations by Iran of the arms embargo or of the restrictions of its missile program would not force automatic reinstatement or snapback of United Nations sanctions under the terms of the nuclear deal reached between Iran and world powers last month. This, again, I want you to see if you can make sense out of this. This, according to John Kerry. Here's the quote. "The arms embargo is not tied to snapback," Kerry said. "It's tied to a separate set of obligations so they are not in material breach of the nuclear agreement for violating the arms piece of it." I know, I've read it a couple times now, and I'm still really not sure what Kerry is saying, but I guess that shouldn't come as a surprise. However, John does go on to say, no worries, he's trying to assure the Israelis that the U.S. has the means available to punish Iran if and when Iran violates the UN resolutions on weapons. I wonder if this really gives anybody any comfort. It's not a matter of if they will, it's when they will. And since there's no snapback whatsoever, are we just going to come up with our own new set of sanctions? Once again, we're told that Iran is literally just laughing at Obama and this whole deal. In fact, Obama last week talked about the so-called, wait a second, our military options are still on the table. And the top leader of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, his quote is, "We'd like to thank Obama for refreshing us by referring to his options on the table, including the military one. In all truth, we're relaxed, we have no concerns. We're just laughing at such ridiculous words." And again, this was by Brigadier General Muhammad Ali Asudai. I know they're probably quaking in their boots over all of that. U.S. Secretary Ernest Moniz, his recent appeal to Israelis to support the Iranian deal. Okay, he's gone on record trying to convince them to do this. He's now conceded that Washington expects a rise in terror as a result of the agreement. This was last Thursday on a webcast. He acknowledged that the Iran nuclear deal will increase global terrorism. No surprise to Israelis, because immediately after the signing of this framework agreement on March 31st, they've already reported the uptick in weapon shipments from Iran to both Hezbollah as well as Hamas. And now, as we mentioned, the Fatah is interested in seeing what they can get out of the deal as well. This should not come as any surprise, but once again, I'm not sure this is being reported anywhere. Arab states oppose the Iranian deal. U.S. President Barack Obama's statement that all countries that have commented on the Iranian deal support it except Israel is very misleading. Leaders of the Gulf Arab states oppose the Iranian deal, but they don't want to show agreement with Israel. They just have chosen to get their message across unofficially through articles in Arab-owned media and by leaking their strong discontent to the Western press. I think that's important to hear. Not everybody is in agreement with this. Once again, an attempt to isolate Israel. Two-state solution. We've been talking. It's coming down the pike. In seeing this on the horizon, Netanyahu has recently appointed Danny Danon as the upcoming UN ambassador. Danon is Likud. He's hawkish. Danny greeted us in the Knesset a couple years ago as our group visited the Knesset. And you need to understand what's taken place here, because the two-state solution is on the agenda, and Danon is totally, absolutely, 100% opposed to any kind of two-state solution. He says, I'll do my best, my utmost to advance Israel's just cause. And again, it was only about a year ago that Danon suggested that instead of the two-state solution, Israel should just annex the West Bank. So you can't get more of a hawk in terms of this whole two-state solution in the UN than Danny Danon. So stay tuned for all of that. Gaza tunnels. It's been reported that there have been some new tunnels that have been detected that have been funded by the new money available from Iran. Israel has information on these tunnels. They have troops working around the clock to grapple with the threat. However, at this time, Israel prefers to wait rather than send troops into the Hamas-held Gaza Strip to tackle the tunnel networks there, because it knows that if it does that, it will trigger a new war. They have discovered one of the tunnels on the Egyptian border between Egypt, Israel, and Gaza. Kiryam Shalom, the border. Our group has actually been there before, looking into Gaza, and the bottom line is that they have tunnels that are going from Gaza into Israel. So stay tuned for all of that. The Golan Heights, we've mentioned new money being given to Hezbollah. Everything that's taken place up in the Golan Heights with Hezbollah has the stamp of Iranian approval as well as financing. We're starting to hear rumbles from Israel that there may be a ground incursion into Syria dealing with the threat of Hezbollah. So stay tuned for that. Temple Mount, a Last week, a U.S. congressman visited the Temple Mount. He was met with Jordanian opposition, Arabs, Muslims, that were shouting they claimed that his wife was not appropriately dressed, although she was wearing long sleeves and a calf-length skirt. They were shouting that the U.S. was only concerned about Israeli history on the Temple Mount, and they just harassed this group. And once again, no big surprise, as we've told you before, all of our tours about 3 years ago, we just made the decision it wasn't worth the effort to be abused by going up on the Temple Mount as long as the Waqf is in control. Once again, you cannot pray, you cannot bring a Bible, you cannot have any religious symbols whatsoever. And again, I always like to point this out because this is like this so-called peace partner, right? Well, I'll end with this. This couple days ago, more than 200 new immigrants from the U.S. arrived in Israel. It was actually on Tuesday morning on a special Nefesh charter flight. That means soul by soul, or Jewish Souls United. The newcomers were greeted with a festival welcome at Ben Gurion, but here's the bottom line. Among the group of new immigrants, there were 59 young adults who were to enlist in the IDF as lone soldiers. Soldiers without families in Israel, they'll be enlisting into the military just to serve. And again, in a day and age in which we see all of the enemies encircling Israel, we're very aware, because of the time that we spend on IDF bases, the plight of lone soldiers, Jewish boys, men and women, young men and women from literally around the world that will leave their families behind to serve 2 or 3 years in Israel. It's amazing to be there, to see that sort of dedication and commitment. Our prayers go out to the IDF, our prayers go out to Israel for such a time as this, when the world is turning on them, isolating them with the rise of anti-Semitism. Let us as believers make a stand to support Israel in this day. And with that being said, let me encourage you to pray about joining us in one of our upcoming tours to Israel. Seriously, folks, we just don't know how long this door is going to continue to be open. Sharon and I have been to Israel over 25 times, and we have a trip coming up, Holy Ground Explorations. It's inaugural tour to Israel, October 6th through the 15th as well, and then we'll have an extension to southern Israel and Petra. We call it Journey Through Israel. You can get more information at our website, holygroundsexplorations.com. But you just never know how much longer that door will be open. So let me encourage you to pray about joining us on this particular tour. We have about a couple weeks left for sign-ups. We do have room, so pray about it. And once again, we'd love to have you along. So this is the weekly report that comes out through the KFIR Fellowship. If you're interested in receiving this on a regular basis, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, Dan Stolbarger, or you can email me at dan@hgkfir.com and simply say, sign me up. You'll receive Monday through Friday, you'll receive an email with our reading schedule on it. We read 3 chapters a day, one from 3 different books. You'll also receive our prayer list. We believe strongly in being devoted to the Word of God as well as to prayer. And then on a weekly basis, you receive this link for our Middle East update. So with that, let me wish you shalom. May the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you, to be gracious to you, that his countenance would be lifted up all around about you, and that you might experience his shalom.